So let's talk about the exports in particular. So if you try to see India's textile exports, what are the problems of India's? Now, if we speak the textile exports, it accounts around 3.2% of India's. If I see the exact information, it is 3.2%, sorry, 3.4% of the global exports. And this is the period is 2016 till 2021. Now, if we talk about textile exports, now typically जो textile होता है, in that there are two kind of fibers. One are the natural fibers. Example of natural fibers would be cotton, right? Or they can be man-made fibers. It is called MMF. Now this is around 72% and this is around 28%. So globally, this is not the export in general, but we talk about the. So there is an increased demand of MMF, and this is more sustainable in nature. This is sustainable and less energy intensive, or less water intensive. Okay. So when we talk about the fibers in particular, what is the problem that India is facing in the export sector? One problem that we are facing is that we have to compete with countries like China and Vietnam and Thailand, other countries, and we are not able to compete, especially इस वाले area में, right? In the man-made fibers, we are still lagging behind, and we are not able to compete with the developed countries, or other market dominance जो है वो China का better है. There is a price disparity also. Now let's say you are making something, but for that you need imported item. So what has really happened, that the imports of textiles have gone up. And why it is? Because of the cheaper imports. Imports are cheaper in the countries like, import जो है cheap है. So import cheap क्यों है? Because maybe their manufacturing cost is low, maybe they are doing better innovation. So if India has to compete with them, we have to up our game. हमको अपना game up करना होगा, because we know that we can't compete China unless until we are able to do better here. This is one area where India has good potential, but we have not been able to capitalize on this area. दूसरा problem also is that the countries, for example, if I say Bangladesh or many countries which are less developed with India, and they are doing better than India. And the reason why they are doing better than India, because they have certain advantages. For example, from Bangladesh, India se koi saman, if any item goes from India to, let's say, America, the duty will be applied from their side. वो import duty लगाएंगे, our export, their import. But that is not applicable in the case of Bangladesh. Why? Because Bangladesh is a relatively poor country. So they have got concession in the international trade. That concession is available to them, but it is not available to us. So now dynamics are changing. Even Bangladesh is becoming maybe more developed, but so far as we speak now, the benefits of the global trade are more available to countries like Bangladesh. Also countries like China, they are able to do better because they have certain advantages. For example, their government is giving more subsidies. Their factories have better economies of scale, which means, let's say in my factory 100 workers are working. Similarly, at similar level in Bangladesh, maybe in China 500 workers are working. So their cost of production will be lesser than ours. Unka cost of production हमसे कम है. So automatically they will compete. So what Indian textile sector is facing, that we are facing a cheaper imports coming from their side. Now there are certain other aspects also that we need to look at it. Now एक तो ये है, there are real problem, the imports are coming cheaper. Do we have more underlying problems in our own economy for the export sector. Now, a lot of export sector required imports. Let's say I'm doing export, but I need to import the raw material. मुझे raw material import करना है. So in that situation, there are certain challenges that Indian textile sector is facing. For example, let me tell you the challenges. One of the challenges is inverted duty structure. Okay, one of the problem is that second is GST refund delays, lack of innovation, so हमारे exports from the textile sector, that problem that are facing is inverted duty structure. Now what is inverted duty structure? कोई बताएगा मुझे? What is the concept of inverted duty structure? Anybody? Anybody knows that concept of inverted duty structure? I'll tell you. Let's say this is a remote I have. Okay. Now this remote, let's say the cost of this remote is, let's say, 500 rupees. Okay. और इस पर there is a 5% GST. Right? कितना हो गया GST? How many? What is the GST amount? 25 rupees. Now this इसके अंदर जो बैटरी है, the battery of this is, it is mainly the cost of battery which is the main thing. So let's say battery is imported. Battery का value है 300 rupees. The battery, and this battery is imported. Now on this 300 rupees, I have to pay a duty of, let's say, 10%. The import duty. मुझे 10% import duty देना पड़ रहा है. So what is the 10% of 300? 30 rupees. Now final product पे जो tax is less and the imported item पे tax is more. The 30 rupees is more than 25 rupees. So the raw material which I am importing, I have to pay more duty on that, and the tax which I am imposing on my product in terms of percentage, it is less. So कई बार क्या होता है, the taxes that you are paying, the taxes that you are paying is much more than the import duty that you are paying is more than the item itself. अब इसका नुकसान क्या होता है? I can't sell my battery at 500, rather I have to maybe add this cost also. So my cost का price ऊपर चला जाता है because there is a distortion in the tax structure. Import duty is more and final product पे duty कम होता है. That is called inverted duty structure. The duty is more on the raw material and the duty is less on the final product. So this concept is called the inverted duty structure. Duty invert हो रखा है. Inputs पर आपका जो raw material जिससे हम बना रहे हैं, the duty is more, the tax is more, and on the final product the tax is less. So होता क्या है? Now who will pay the tax? The customer will pay the tax. Consumer will pay the tax. The tax is not paid by the भाई us नहीं है, seller थोड़ी pay करेगा, manufacturer pay नहीं करेगा. So this is called, now how will the product cost will go up? Now let's say this battery is of, this remote is of 500 rupees. The same remote coming from China is at 450. The same remote coming from China is at 450. तो मैं कौन सा खरीदूंगा? Which battery, which remote I will purchase? अगर दोनों का quality is same, I will go for Chinese item, which means my product cannot compete with the Chinese product. So this is another problem. So our textiles are costly because of inverted duty structure. Now government is trying to resolve it. So the export sector, the textile sector people will go to the government. अच्छा होता क्या है? Let's say this is a problem. Now we have a concept called export is zero rated. Export is zero rated, which means what? The tax which I am paying on the imports and that item which I am importing to make my exported item, वो zero rated होना चाहिए. Which means this 30 rupees which I have imported, now I have to prove to the government that मैंने ये battery बनाया and this battery has inputs which is imported and I have paid tax on that. Now when government says export is zero rated, which means technically I don't have to pay any tax on this. मुझे इस पे tax नहीं देना है. Now I don't have to give a tax on this. So what government will do? Government will do refund of that. So government will refund this 30 rupees to me. But there is a condition. That condition is you have to prove that the product that you have made will be exported. It is not for domestic use. Because the benefit is applicable only for the export item. Export is zero rated. फिर क्या होता है? Now here I get refund of the tax. Now government will cross check that have you exported the item or not, and that will take some time. उसमें time लगता है. So there is a refund that supposed to get, and that refund is delayed. Now let's say I'm a businessman and my refund is delayed for let's say 6 months, and that refund is nothing but it's a 10% of my revenue. Let's say 10% of my revenue, which I need to get in the tax form from the government in GST. So this money is logged. अगर ये पैसा मेरे पास होता तो I could have used this money automatically from day one. So this is also a problem. So there is a GST refund delay, there is inverted duty structure. इसको आपने resolve किया, so this is getting not resolved. And because of this, there is a cost is high. Let's say, so I am waiting for this money to come. Now I am not getting this money. तो businessman कहेगा अरे, I am operating on a margin of 3-4% and 10% तो आपके पास है. Now where will I get the capital? Now remember, all these manufacturers, they work on very thin margin. आप 10,000 का सामान बेच रहे हो, margin is 300 rupees, 200 rupees. It is a scale which is important. आप बहुत ज़्यादा item बेच रहे हो, and that is why you are able to generate income. So this kind of problem is there, and government has tried to streamline it, but still there is some problem. Majority problem government has resolved, because many a times it's a systemic issue. It is a sector particular issue है. हर जगह issue नहीं है. Now let's say I'm using input which I'm importing. So automatically, अच्छा government, why government is putting high duty on imports? So that import is reduced. So government is putting high duty on imports so that we focus on domestic manufacturing. So it is like discouraging the imports. That is a new problem. Now what we do, Chinese का जो import है, now what we see, the Chinese import जो है, now we know that Chinese import is cheaper. Now it is a deliberate strategy by Chinese importers or from their government to flood the market by cheaper products. अब मान लो सामान आपका 10 rupees का है और आपने 8 रुपए में बेचना स्टार्ट कर दिया. Let's say, now you are a new entry, you are a new person, because you have good amount of money and capital. आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव है मार्केट को तोड़ना. कब तक चलोगे? Till how long you are going to? Now I know that I am selling a 10 rupees item at 8 rupees, so 2 rupees is from my wallet, from my pocket. Let's say you do this for next 6 months. Other person is selling at 12 rupees because that person has to generate profit also. So can this 12 rupees compete with 8 rupee, the same product? No. But 6 महीने में I'm out of the business. Now this person will increase not 12, they will increase it to 14. पुराना loss भी तो cover करना है. Now you don't have an option, choice. So anti-dumping duty is when the cost of production is less, if your sale price is less than the cost of production. तो ये सब चाइना करता है. They dump the item at a cheaper rate. तो उस केस में क्या होता है, हम एक एंटी डंपिंग ड्यूटी लगाएंगे. बट मालूम कैसे होगा डंपिंग हो रहा है? हाउ डू आई नो दैट डंपिंग इज हैपनिंग? यही तरीका है चाइनीज प्रोडक्ट। अब या तो आपका योर इमोशंस, नो मेड इन चाइना। तो yesterday I was in market and I was so my children were there and they were looking at toys and all. So every time I was speaking made in China, then I saw made in India, the cost was very high, रख दिया नीचे। Because economics logic will apply, right? Emotions, just because something is coming from China will not apply in my mind. अभी दोनों प्रोडक्ट कंपैरेबल होते हैं, ₹2 ठीक है, बट इफ देयर इज अ डिफरेंस व्हिच इज वाइड, तो मैंने पूछा व्हाई दिस कॉस्टली? अरे सर द क्वालिटी इज गुड, देयर आर नो एजेस। मैंने कहा अच्छा, दिस हाउ मच द कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन इज सो हाई। वही चाइनीज वाला जो ऑप्शन है, इट इज ऑलमोस्ट एट हाफ द प्राइस। अब लिया नहीं मैंने, लेकिन दिमाग में आ तो गया, राइट? सो we have to compete. If you want your product to compete, you have to make sure all these basic issues are addressed. तो हमारा textile उनसे compete, we are not able to compete the textile because of our inherent problem. Innovation, you have to innovate. Those people are innovating, they are looking out of box, they have solutions. हमारा textile sector, especially in the places like Surat or Ludhiana, they are not, उनका sale down हो रहा है, the revenues are coming down, the imports are going up. At one But मैं एक और रिपोर्ट पढ़ रहा था, when I saw this news, then I was reading other report also. Their government was very bullish. Government said that by 2030, जो MMF है, man-made fibers, their sale will maybe triple. I don't know. Two conflicting news था. At one end, government was bullish, and other end, our exporters are facing problem. So you need to know where the problem lies, what are the concerns. If we want our industry to grow, we have to work on the basics of these sector. Clear हुआ? I hope you got the entire thing. Invoice मतलब billing. Let's say invoicing, जैसे the product is of 1,000 rupees and I did the invoice at 500 rupees. Tax किस पे लगेगा? This is the invoice value. Tax will be applied on this. Product का वैल्यू इतना है, you undervalue the items. दूसरा क्वालिटी कंट्रोल is also something that government is looking at. तो क्वालिटी कंट्रोल पूरे सप्लाई चेन पे लगता है. There are industry people who say that instead of putting in the entire supply chain, just put the quality control on the final product. जैसे हम रॉ मटेरियल इंपोर्ट करते हैं, there is a quality control on that also. अब कोई रॉ मटेरियल मैंने इंपोर्ट किया, क्वालिटी कंट्रोल उस पर भी लगा दिया. Their Chinese item is more competitive than us, right? So my item cannot compete with them even in the area of quality. So they are saying that why you are putting quality control? Final product पे quality control करिए. So these are the challenges which are there. Now government will definitely be responsive, but our textile sector को अगर grow करना है, we have to think out of box. We have to increase the scale of production. हम लोग का इंडिया में जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है, आवर कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन इज हायर. आप जो शर्ट पहने हुए हो, दैट शर्ट का प्राइस अगर आप मुझे बता दो तो मैं बता दूंगा इंडियन है या फॉरेनर है. इफ द प्राइस इज हाई, दैट इज इंडियन मेड. इफ द प्राइस इज लो, इट इज इंपोर्टेड. आप बड़े शोरूम में जाओगे, वो इंडियन मेड शर्ट होगा. बट इफ यू गो इन अ शोरूम वेयर यू गेट अ शर्ट एट 300 rupees or 200 rupees, दैट इज इंपोर्टेड. जो हमारे देश में बन रहा है वो हम इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं. जो मेजॉरिटी पीपल आर परचेजिंग, दैट इज इंपोर्टेड, बिकॉज वी आर नॉट एबल टू प्रोड्यूस चीप प्रोडक्ट. क्वालिटी हमारा अच्छा है ऑन द हायर साइड. यू गो इन अ शोरूम ऑफ मॉक एंड स्पेंसर, प्राइस स्टार्ट होता है 3-5 हजार से. दैट प्रोडक्ट इज मेड इन गुजरात. बट इफ यू गो टू सरोजनी मार्केट, और फॉर दैट मैटर यू गो टू सम मार्केट जहां पर यू हैव द ऑनलाइन दिस बाजार, यू हैव बाजार, राइट? On a particular day, 50 रुपए, 50 रुपए, 50 रुपए, 50 रुपए. That item is not Indian. That item is coming from Vietnam. वो लोग का production cost काफी कम है. Okay. So that is the news which is there. You have to understand.